Life is short, and wisdom is the ultimate compass. What if the secret to unshakable strength and peace lies in 10 powerful lessons that could change everything? In this video, we'll uncover the timeless Stoic principles that have guided some of history's greatest minds, lessons you can apply today to master your emotions, build resilience, and lead a life of purpose. Stick around until the end, because the final lesson might just be the one that transforms your life forever. Number 1. Practice voluntary discomfort to build resilience. Let's face it, life throws curveballs when you least expect them. 1 minute, you're coasting along, and the next, everything feels upside down. How you handle those moments? That's where resilience comes in. And here's the kicker, you can actually train yourself to handle discomfort before life throws it at you. It sounds counterintuitive, maybe even a little masochistic, but practicing voluntary discomfort is like giving your mental muscles a workout. And trust me, it pays off. Now, when we talk about voluntary discomfort, it's not about making yourself miserable just for the sake of it. This isn't about seeking pain, it's about seeking growth. Imagine stepping outside your comfort zone as a way to build your inner armor. By willingly facing small challenges now, you're preparing yourself for the bigger ones later. Think of it like this: if you can stand the heat of a self-made fire, you'll be ready when life turns up the temperature. But let's break this down a little more, because the idea might sound intimidating at first. What does it even mean to choose discomfort? It could be as simple as skipping a luxury you've gotten used to, maybe sleeping on the floor for a night or going without your favorite creature comforts for a day or two. At first, your mind will resist. You'll hear all the excuses. Why do this when you don't have to? That's the thing, though. By choosing to endure something mildly unpleasant, you're teaching yourself that you're capable of handling more than you thought. And the benefits? They're huge. First off, you'll start to see discomfort differently. Instead of running away from it, you'll recognize it as temporary and, in some cases, even empowering. When you willingly walk into something hard, you take away its power to intimidate you. You're in control. And once you've conquered that discomfort, you'll feel stronger, tougher, more prepared for whatever comes next. Here's another interesting twist. Practicing voluntary discomfort can make you appreciate what you already have so much more. We take so much for granted: our routines, our conveniences, the little pleasures that make life easier. But when you temporarily remove one of those things, you'll notice how much you actually enjoy it when it returns. That first sip of water after fasting? It hits differently. The softness of your bed after a night on the floor? Pure bliss. Discomfort has a way of sharpening your gratitude. What's cool about this practice is that it's personal. There's no one-size-fits-all approach. Your version of voluntary discomfort might look different from someone else's, and that's okay. The key is to pick something that stretches you, not breaks you. Start small. Maybe it's taking a cold shower instead of your usual warm one. Maybe it's eating plain food for a meal instead of indulging in something fancy. The idea is to nudge yourself out of the familiar, just enough to build resilience without overwhelming yourself. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. Yes, it's uncomfortable. That's the whole point. But here's the magic: once you've gone through it, you realize it wasn't as bad as you thought. And that lesson sticks with you. It spills over into other areas of your life. When challenges show up, unexpected bills, tough conversations, moments of doubt, you've got that mental strength banked. You've been here before, in some form or another, and you know you can handle it. Ultimately, practicing voluntary discomfort isn't about punishing yourself. It's about preparing yourself. It's about stepping up, building resilience, and proving to yourself that you're stronger than your circumstances. So, take that first step. Embrace the little discomfort. You'll thank yourself later. Number 2. reflect nightly on your actions to improve tomorrow. Life is a whirlwind of emotions, choices, and moments, and it's easy to get swept away without pausing to consider how we're actually doing. One of the most transformative practices you can adopt is to spend a few quiet moments each night reflecting on your actions. This simple habit isn't just about keeping score, it's about learning, growing, and stepping into a better version of yourself each day. Picture this: it's late, the world has quieted down, and you finally have a chance to sit with your thoughts. How often do you take that time seriously? Most of us don't. We scroll through our phones, binge on shows, or crash into bed. But what if you used that time differently? What if, instead of zoning out, you zoned in? You could replay the day like a movie in your mind, pausing to ask yourself, what did I do well? Where did I stumble? What could I tweak to make tomorrow just a little better? This isn't about beating yourself up. Let's get that straight. Reflection isn't some nightly guilt trip where you catalog all your failures and shortcomings. That's not helpful, and honestly, it's not what Stoicism teaches. This is about being honest and constructive. You're not judging yourself, you're observing. Think of yourself as a curious scientist examining your own life. One way to start is by asking yourself 3 simple questions. What went right today? What went wrong? What can I do differently tomorrow? Keep it casual. You don't need a fancy journal or hours of deep contemplation. Even 5 minutes will do. The goal is to get real with yourself, to shine a light on your habits and choices. You might realize that you handled a tough conversation well, and that deserves a mental pat on the back. Or maybe you noticed that you wasted an hour procrastinating on something important. That's not a failure, it's a chance to make a plan for tomorrow. This kind of nightly reflection does something magical: it builds momentum. Small adjustments compound over time, turning good days into great weeks and better months. You start seeing patterns, too. Maybe you notice you're always distracted in the afternoons, or that certain people drain your energy. These insights are gold. They give you the power to adjust, to tweak the dials of your life until things run smoother. But here's the catch: you've got to be honest with yourself. No sugarcoating, no justifying, no blaming others. If you snapped at someone, own it. If you skipped the gym because you felt lazy, admit it. This honesty is what makes reflection work. It's not about being perfect, it's about being real. When you acknowledge your flaws without shame, you give yourself the freedom to improve. Now, reflection isn't just about the bad stuff either. It's just as important to celebrate your wins. Did you resist a temptation? Did you step out of your comfort zone? Did you show kindness when it would have been easier not to? These moments matter. They're fuel for your motivation, proof that you're on the right path. Don't gloss over them, bask in them for a moment. Let them sink in. Some nights, your reflection might feel deep and profound. Other nights, it might be quick and surface level. That's okay. The key is consistency. Think of it like brushing your teeth. Some nights you'll do a thorough job, other nights, you're just getting it done. But either way, you're showing up, and that's what matters. Over time, this practice becomes second nature. You'll find yourself catching missteps earlier and making better choices in real time. It's like your brain develops a built-in accountability system. And the beauty of it is, no one else has to know. This is your private space, your chance to connect with yourself on a deeper level. So, tonight, when the world quiets down and it's just you and your thoughts, give it a shot. Sit back, close your eyes, and replay the day. Ask yourself those 3 simple questions. Be honest, be kind, and be curious. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. And every night is a chance to take one step closer to the person you want to become. Number 3, embrace adversity as a tool for growth. life isn't a walk in the park. It's more like a winding trail filled with rocks, mud, and unexpected detours. But here's the thing, those obstacles, they're not there to stop you. They're there to shape you. Embracing adversity is one of the most powerful lessons you can learn, and it's not just about survival. It's about transformation. Think about it. When everything goes smoothly, you're comfortable. You're coasting. There's no challenge to test your strength or stretch your limits. Sure, it feels good, but does it really push you to evolve? Not so much. Adversity, on the other hand, is the universe's way of saying, you've got more in you, dig deeper. Now, don't get me wrong. Nobody loves adversity. It's messy, painful, and sometimes downright exhausting. It can feel like the world is against you. But what if you stopped seeing it as a curse and started seeing it as a gift? What if every hardship was an invitation to level up? When you shift your mindset like this, the game changes. Instead of running from challenges, you face them head-on, knowing that they're sharpening you like a blade. Imagine adversity as a forge, and you're the raw metal. The fire burns hot, and the hammer strikes hard. It's uncomfortable, even agonizing at times. But with each strike, you're being molded into something stronger, something more resilient. The process isn't pretty, but the result? That's pure power. Now, here's the tricky part. Adversity doesn't come with a manual. It won't knock on your door and politely explain how it's going to help you grow. Sometimes it hits like a tidal wave, leaving you gasping for air. Other times, it's a slow, grinding pressure that wears you down over time. Either way, it forces you to adapt, to find new ways of thinking and being. It demands creativity, resourcefulness, and grit. But let's be real for a second. When you're in the thick of it, growth is probably the last thing on your mind. You're more likely thinking, why me, or when will this end? And that's okay. Feeling frustrated or overwhelmed doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. The key is to keep going. Keep pushing, even when you're tempted to throw in the towel. Because on the other side of adversity is a version of you that you haven't met yet, a version that's wiser, tougher, and more capable than you ever imagined. Another thing to remember is that adversity is the ultimate teacher. It forces you to confront your fears and flaws. It strips away the superficial and brings you face to face with what truly matters. When you're at your lowest, you discover your deepest strengths. You learn patience, persistence, and humility. These lessons are invaluable. They're the kind of knowledge you can't get from a book or a seminar. They're earned through experience, through living. There's also something oddly liberating about embracing adversity. Once you realize that challenges are inevitable, you stop fearing them. Instead of resisting, you lean in. You accept that pain is part of the process, and with that acceptance comes freedom. You're no longer a victim of your circumstances. You become the architect of your growth. And let's not forget the ripple effect. When you embrace adversity, you inspire others to do the same. Your courage, your perseverance, it's contagious. People see you rising above your struggles, and it gives them hope that they can too. Your growth becomes a beacon, lighting the way for those who are still finding their footing. So, the next time life throws you a curveball, don't just endure it. Embrace it. Dive into the challenge with everything you've got. Remember, adversity isn't there to defeat you, it's there to define you. And when you come out on the other side, you'll realize that the struggle wasn't just worth it. It was necessary. Number 4, focus on your character, not reputation. Here's a truth bomb that might shake you up a bit. Reputation is just smoke in the wind. It's a fragile, fleeting thing shaped by other people's opinions, something you can't control, no matter how hard you try. Character, though? That's solid. That's you, the real you, beneath all the noise and judgment. And the Stoics were crystal clear about this: spend your energy on building your character. Forget about obsessing over your reputation. It's tempting, though, isn't it? To care about what people think. Society practically screams at us to do it. Likes, follows, approval, it's all baked into the way we live. But the Stoics saw through this illusion. They knew chasing reputation is like trying to hold on to sand. It slips right through your fingers, no matter how tight your grip. The opinions of others are beyond your control, and that's the key: they're not yours to manage. So why let them define you? Your character, on the other hand, is something you own completely. It's about the values you stand for, the principles you live by, and the decisions you make when no one else is watching. That's the stuff that matters. That's the foundation. When you focus on character, you build something real, something unshakable. People might misunderstand you, they might judge you unfairly, but your character doesn't depend on their approval. It's rooted in who you are, not what others think of you. Now, let's get real for a second. This isn't easy. We're wired to crave validation, it's human nature. But think about how exhausting it is to constantly worry about how others see you. One minute they praise you, the next, they criticize you. It's a roller coaster you didn't sign up for, but you're stuck riding unless you get off and say, "You know what? I'm done with this game." Here's where it gets interesting. When you stop caring so much about your reputation, you free yourself. You stop being a puppet, pulled in every direction by the strings of other people's opinions. Instead, you focus on what truly matters: your integrity, your honesty, your kindness, your courage. These are the things that define you, not the fleeting impressions others might have. And here's the kicker: the more you focus on your character, the less your reputation actually matters. Because people who genuinely understand you will see your character shining through. They'll respect you for who you are, not for some image you're trying to project. And those who don't, well, their opinions were never yours to worry about in the first place. But let's not sugarcoat this. Building character isn't some overnight transformation. It's a slow, steady process. It's about making the tough choices, even when it's inconvenient or uncomfortable. It's about staying true to your values when no one's looking, and maybe even when people are judging. It's about looking yourself in the mirror at the end of the day and being able to say, "I did my best to do what's right." Reputation, on the other hand, can be fickle and shallow. One misstep, one misunderstood word, and poof, it's gone. But character? That's yours to keep. It's your anchor when life gets stormy. It's your compass when you feel lost. And no one, no matter how loud their opinions, can take that away from you. So, here's the challenge: start thinking less about how others see you and more about how you see yourself. Stop chasing approval and start building something that lasts. Ask yourself, am I living in a way that aligns with my values? Because at the end of the day, reputation is what people say about you. Character is who you are. And only one of those truly matters. Number 5, remember, you will die. Alright, let's talk about something people avoid like the plague: death. Yeah, I know, it's not exactly cocktail party conversation, but hear me out. This isn't about being morbid or depressing. It's about waking up, shaking off the autopilot, and realizing what's truly at stake in life. The Stoics had a name for this idea: memento mori, which means remember that you will die. Simple, right? But also profound. Let's dive in. We all know we're going to die. Like, duh. It's the most basic fact of life. Yet, how often do you really feel it? Most of us push the thought away. We bury it under distractions, routines, and the illusion that we've got all the time in the world. But what if you didn't? What if today was your last shot to get it right? Would you still waste time on the stuff that doesn't matter? Would you still hold back your words, your love, your dreams? When you remember that your time is limited, life suddenly becomes sharper, more vibrant. It's like someone turned up the contrast on everything. The little annoyances, traffic, rude comments, spilled coffee, they shrink into nothing. Meanwhile, the things that truly matter, your relationships, your passions, your purpose, they come roaring into focus. Death isn't here to scare you, it's here to remind you to live fully. Now, let's get one thing straight. Thinking about death doesn't mean walking around in a constant state of existential dread. That's not what the Stoics were about. They saw it as a tool, a way to cut through the noise of life and anchor yourself in what's real. Marcus Aurelius, one of the OG Stoics, used to remind himself daily that he was a speck in the vastness of time. Not to feel small, but to feel free. Because when you stop fearing the end, you start living with more intention. So how do you actually do this? How do you remember you will die without spiraling into anxiety? Start small. Maybe it's as simple as pausing in the middle of a busy day to ask yourself, if this were my last day, would I be okay with how I'm spending it? It's not about throwing your life into chaos or making dramatic changes. It's about being honest with yourself. Are you living the life you want, or are you coasting? Are you chasing what lights you up, or are you settling? Another way to embrace this mindset is to notice the impermanence of everything around you. Look at the sky, it's never the same twice. The people you love, the places you go, even your own body, they're all temporary. That can feel heavy, but it's also liberating. It reminds you to cherish the now, to hold the moment like it's fragile, because it is. Here's the kicker, remembering your mortality isn't just about living for yourself. It's also about how you treat others. When you know everyone is on the same ticking clock, it's harder to hold grudges or stay angry over trivial things. You realize that time is too precious to waste on bitterness. Instead, you start showing up with more kindness, more empathy, more forgiveness. This isn't to say you'll magically become perfect. You'll still have bad days, get stuck in traffic, and snap at people when you're tired. That's human. But memento mori plants a seed in your mind. It whispers, hey, this won't last forever. Make it count. And over time, that whisper grows louder. It starts to guide your choices, reshape your priorities, and align your life with what truly matters. So, let's wrap this up. Death is coming for all of us. There's no escaping it. But instead of running from that fact, lean into it. Let it be your teacher, your motivator, your compass. Because when you remember that you will die, you finally start living in a way that's alive. And isn't that the whole point? Number 6, avoid emotional overreaction. Life's a whirlwind, isn't it? Things happen, unexpected, frustrating, even downright infuriating things. Someone cuts you off in traffic. A comment stings more than it should. Plans unravel at the worst possible moment. And there it is, that spark of anger, frustration, or sadness flaring up inside you. It's tempting to let it take over, to lash out, or to spiral into self-pity. But here's the kicker, emotional overreaction is rarely about the moment itself. It's about how you let the moment control you. Stoics understood this better than most. They knew that while we can't control what happens to us, we can always control how we respond. And that's where the magic lies. Avoiding emotional overreaction isn't about suppressing your feelings or pretending nothing bothers you. It's about learning to pause, to breathe, and to choose a response that aligns with who you want to be. Let's break it down. When something triggers you, your emotions rush in like a tidal wave. That's natural. Your brain is wired to react that way, it's survival instinct. But here's the thing, not every moment is a life or death situation. Most of the time, your emotional response is far bigger than the problem at hand. And that's when things spiral. A small inconvenience becomes a massive ordeal. A passing comment turns into a lingering grudge. You get swept away, and suddenly, your emotions are in the driver's seat, taking you on a ride you didn't sign up for. But what if you hit pause? Just for a moment. Instead of reacting immediately, you take a deep breath. You step back, even mentally, and ask yourself, is this worth my peace? Will this matter in an hour? A day? A year? 9 times out of 10, the answer is no. And in that pause, you find clarity. You realize that you don't have to give every fleeting emotion the power to dictate your actions. You can acknowledge it, feel it, and then let it pass. Now, let's get one thing straight. This isn't easy. It's a skill, and like any skill, it takes practice. There will be times when you slip up, when the frustration bubbles over, or the anger bursts out. That's okay. The goal isn't perfection, it's progress. Each time you catch yourself, each time you pause instead of react, you're building that muscle. You're reclaiming control over your emotions, bit by bit. And let's talk about control for a second. People often mistake emotional control for weakness, as if staying calm means you don't care. But it's the opposite. It takes immense strength to hold steady when everything inside you is screaming to react. It's not about ignoring your feelings, it's about understanding them, mastering them, and choosing not to let them master you. Here's another thing to chew on: emotions are temporary. They flare up like a matchstick, hot, intense, but brief. If you give yourself just a little time, that initial surge will fade. And once it does, you'll see things differently. What felt like a catastrophe might seem like a minor bump. What seemed unforgivable might look like a misunderstanding. Time has a way of softening the edges, but only if you give it the chance. Avoiding emotional overreaction isn't just about keeping your cool in tough moments. It's about creating space for better choices. It's about preserving your energy for what truly matters, instead of wasting it on fleeting frustrations. It's about living in a way that feels steady, grounded, and intentional. So next time you feel that spark, pause. Breathe. Remind yourself that you don't have to act on every feeling that arises. You are not your emotions, you are the observer of them. And when you choose to observe instead of react, you reclaim your power. Over time, you'll notice something incredible. The things that used to rattle you lose their grip. You'll feel lighter, freer, and more in control of your own story. And that, my friend, is a game changer. Number 7. Detach from the past and future, live fully in the present. We humans have this annoying little habit of getting stuck in two places we can't do a damn thing about, the past and the future. We replay old mistakes like a broken record, wondering what we could have done differently. Or we obsess over what's coming next, trying to predict every twist and turn life might throw at us. But here's the kicker: while we're busy worrying about what's behind us or ahead, we're completely missing the only thing that's actually real, the present moment. The Stoics had this dialed in. They knew the past is gone, a closed book you can't rewrite. The future? It's not even here yet, and honestly, it's never guaranteed. The only thing you can touch, the only thing you have any power over, is right now. The present moment is all you've got, and it's where life actually happens. Sounds simple, right? But we've made it so complicated. Think about how much time we waste dragging around the baggage of our past. Regrets, grudges, missed opportunities, they weigh us down like a lead backpack. You can't move forward when you're constantly looking over your shoulder. The past is done. It's like spilled milk. No amount of wishing or replaying can put it back in the glass. The only thing you can do is learn from it, let it go, and step forward. That's it. In the future? Oh man, we build entire castles in the air about the future. We plan, we predict, we stress over things that may never even happen. What if this goes wrong? What if I fail? It's an endless spiral of what-ifs that keeps us from appreciating what's right in front of us. The truth is, the future is just an idea, a story we tell ourselves about what might happen. Why let something imaginary steal your peace today? So, what's the alternative? Living fully in the present. It's not as mystical as it sounds. It's about showing up, right here, right now, and giving your attention to what's in front of you. Whether it's the task you're working on, the person you're talking to, or even just the sensation of your own breath, it's all about being here. Not drifting into yesterday's regrets or tomorrow's worries, but being alive in this moment. Now, let's get real for a second. Living in the present isn't always easy. Your mind will fight you on this. It'll try to pull you back into the past or launch you into the future because that's what it's used to doing. But you can train it, like you'd train a wild horse. When you catch yourself spiraling, gently pull yourself back. Focus on what's real. What's concrete. This moment. One of the beautiful things about being present is how much lighter life feels. When you're not carrying the weight of the past or stressing over the unknown future, you can breathe. You can see things more clearly. You start to notice the small joys you usually overlook, the warmth of sunlight on your skin, the sound of laughter, the taste of your favorite food. These are the moments that make life rich, and they're happening all the time if you're paying attention. Here's the wild part. When you live fully in the present, the past and future kind of take care of themselves. You handle today with integrity and purpose, and guess what? That builds a better tomorrow. You learn from your past without being trapped by it. It's like living in the now creates this ripple effect that reaches out in both directions. So, stop chasing shadows and ghosts. Let go of yesterday. Don't worry about tomorrow. Be here. Be alive. This moment is yours, don't waste it. Number 8, understand that your opinion of events shapes your suffering. Let's get one thing straight, life isn't out to get you. It's not sitting in the clouds, throwing curveballs your way for fun. Life just is. Things happen, good, bad, or downright strange, and most of the time, it's not the event itself that messes you up. It's the story you tell yourself about it. That's where the real suffering comes from. It's your perception, your judgment, your mental spin on what's happening that turns a passing storm into a full-blown hurricane in your head. The Stoics nailed this idea thousands of years ago. They believed that while you might not control what happens to you, you always control how you interpret it. This is huge. Think about it. There's a massive difference between, this situation is unbearable and, this situation is challenging, but I can handle it. Same event. Totally different vibes. One thought drags you down, while the other helps you rise above. Now, before you roll your eyes, this isn't about toxic positivity. It's not about pretending everything's fine when it's clearly not. Life can be brutal sometimes, and denying that doesn't help anyone. But what the Stoics are saying is this: the event is neutral. It's your opinion about it that colors everything. Here's an example. Imagine a rainy day. For one person, it's a ruined plan. For another, it's cozy weather for reading. Same rain. Different reactions. Neither is wrong, it's just that one mindset leads to frustration, and the other leads to acceptance. The rain doesn't care what you think. It's doing its thing. You're the one choosing how to react. So how do you shift your perspective when life throws something heavy at you? First, hit pause. When something happens, your gut reaction is usually immediate. Anger, sadness, frustration, they rush in without knocking. That's normal, but it's also where you have a choice. Instead of letting that knee-jerk reaction take the wheel, step back. Take a deep breath. Ask yourself, what am I telling myself about this? Is that story helping me, or is it making things worse? This doesn't mean you'll magically stop feeling pain or anger or disappointment. You're human, after all. But when you realize that your suffering is more about your interpretation than the event itself, you take back some control. You stop being a victim of circumstance and start being the narrator of your own story. Think of it this way, your mind is like a lens. If the lens is smudged with negativity, every event will look worse than it is. If the lens is clear, you see things as they are, not better, not worse, just reality. And when you deal with reality instead of your exaggerated stories about it, everything gets a little easier. Here's the tricky part, though. Changing your perception isn't a one-and-done deal. It's a practice. You're going to slip up. You're going to overreact, dwell on things, and blow stuff out of proportion sometimes. That's okay. The goal isn't perfection, it's awareness. The more you catch yourself spinning stories, the more you can interrupt the cycle. And let's be real, this isn't just about handling the big stuff, loss, failure, heartbreak. It's about the little things, too. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Your coffee order gets messed up. Your plans fall apart. You can let those moments ruin your day, or you can shrug them off as minor blips. The choice is yours, every single time. Here's the thing, suffering is inevitable. But unnecessary suffering? That's optional. And the key to avoiding it lies in how you interpret the events of your life. The Stoics weren't trying to sugarcoat reality or turn you into a robot with no feelings. They just wanted to give you a tool, a reminder that your mind is more powerful than you think. When you change how you see things, you change everything. Number 9. Treat every challenge as training for your character. Life's not meant to be a smooth ride. It's more like a series of hurdles, each one designed to test you in new ways. And sure, it can feel like the universe is throwing punches for fun, but what if you flip the script? What if every challenge, no matter how frustrating or painful, was an opportunity, a chance to train, grow, and sculpt your character into something unshakable? Think of it like this, life is a gym for your soul. Every difficulty, every setback, every frustrating moment, those are the weights. You don't get stronger by sitting on the sidelines, avoiding discomfort, or wishing the weights were lighter. You get stronger by stepping up, lifting, and struggling through. And just like in a real workout, it's not always pretty. Sometimes it burns. Sometimes you feel like giving up. But every rep counts. Every effort molds you into something tougher, wiser, and more resilient. Here's the kicker, though, it's not just about surviving challenges. It's about how you approach them. If you see obstacles as curses or punishments, you'll resent them. You'll waste energy fighting the situation instead of using it to build yourself up. But if you can shift your mindset, if you can see every difficulty as a kind of training session, you unlock something powerful. Suddenly, life isn't happening to you. It's happening for you. When something hard comes your way, it's easy to slip into why me mode. That's normal. But what if, instead of asking why me, you asked, what's this teaching me? That small shift changes everything. Instead of being a victim of your circumstances, you become a student of them. You start looking for lessons, for ways to improve, for hidden opportunities to grow. And let's be honest, isn't that a more empowering way to live? Challenges aren't one size fits all, either. Some test your patience, pushing you to stay calm when everything inside you screams to react. Others test your determination, forcing you to dig deep and keep going when it would be so much easier to quit. And some? They test your integrity, daring you to stick to your principles when the easy way out is calling your name. Each type of challenge sharpens a different part of your character. It's like life has this endless variety of training drills, each one designed to prepare you for what's next. And let's not sugarcoat it, training isn't always fun. It's uncomfortable. It forces you to face parts of yourself you'd rather ignore. But that's the point. Growth doesn't come from staying in your comfort zone. It comes from stretching, from pushing, from leaning into the discomfort and trusting that it's leading somewhere worthwhile. Now, here's where things get interesting. The more you treat challenges as training, the more you start to welcome them. Maybe not with open arms, let's not get carried away, but with a kind of quiet confidence. You stop dreading hard times because you know they're shaping you into someone who can handle anything. You stop wishing for an easy life and start aiming for a strong character. And that shift? It's transformative. There's also something deeply satisfying about looking back and seeing how far you've come. When you reflect on the challenges you've faced, the ones that felt impossible at the time, you realize they weren't just obstacles. They were milestones, each one marking a point where you leveled up. You start to trust the process. You start to see challenges not as roadblocks but as stepping stones. So, the next time life throws a curveball, take a breath. Remind yourself that this is training. It's not supposed to be easy, but it is meaningful. Every hard moment, every struggle, is carving you into someone stronger, wiser, and more capable. Treat every challenge as a chance to refine your character, and over time, you'll become the kind of person who doesn't just endure life, you thrive in it. Number 10. View insults as reflections of the insulter, not yourself. Let's be real, nobody likes being insulted. It stings, right? Your first instinct might be to snap back, to defend yourself, or to let it fester and replay in your mind like a bad song stuck on loop. But here's the thing, insults say way more about the person throwing them than they do about you. And once you get that, really get it, their words lose all their power. Think about it. When someone insults you, what's actually happening? They're projecting their own frustrations, insecurities, or biases onto you. It's like they're holding up a mirror, but it's distorted. The image you see in their words? It's not you, it's them. Their insult is just a reflection of what's rattling around in their head, not some universal truth about who you are. Now, let's not sugarcoat this. It's hard not to take it personally when someone says something nasty. We're wired to react, to feel that punch in the gut. But here's where the Stoics drop some serious wisdom. You can choose how to respond. You can let the insult roll off like water on a duck's back. You can step back and think, wow, that says a lot about where they're at, doesn't it? Instead of letting their words control your emotions, you take control of the narrative. What's powerful about this mindset is that it frees you. When you stop letting other people's words define your worth, you become untouchable. Their opinions? Just noise. Their judgments? Not your burden to carry. You're the one steering the ship, not them. And that's a game changer. Let's take a closer look at why people insult others in the first place. 9 times out of 10, it's not about you at all. Maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe they're dealing with their own unresolved junk. Or maybe they just don't know how to express themselves in a healthier way. Whatever the reason, their insult is a window into their inner world, not a commentary on yours. Now, here's where it gets interesting. When you realize an insult is just a reflection of the insulter, you can approach it with curiosity instead of anger. You don't have to lash out. You don't have to defend yourself. You can simply observe. What's going on with them that made them say that? This shift in perspective takes you out of the heat of the moment and puts you in the driver's seat. But don't get it twisted, this isn't about letting people walk all over you. It's about choosing your battles wisely. Not every insult deserves your energy. In fact, most don't. Responding with dignity, or not at all, speaks volumes. It shows you're not playing their game. You're above it, and that's a power move if there ever was one. Here's another layer to this. Insults can actually be a test of your character. How you handle them reveals a lot about you. Do you crumble? Do you lash out? Or do you stay calm and grounded, refusing to let someone else's negativity pull you down? When you choose the latter, you're not just showing strength, you're building it. Every time you rise above an insult, you're reinforcing your resilience. At the end of the day, an insult is just words. It only has the meaning you give it. So why give it any? Why let someone else's bad mood, poor judgment, or insecurity mess with your peace? You've got better things to do. You've got your own life to live, your own character to build. And none of that has anything to do with what some angry, misguided person says in a moment of weakness. Remember this, you're not their words. You're not their opinion. You're not their mirror. Let them wrestle with their own reflection while you keep walking forward, calm, steady, untouchable. Their insult doesn't define you, your response does. Life waits for no one, and these Stoic lessons are your guide to mastering it before it's too late. If this resonated with you, show some love by liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. Let's spread the wisdom and empower more lives. Together, we thrive.